Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Forking Audacity. This is week 3 or 4 or so of this live, and I'm having some fun over here. If this is your first time joining me, welcome in. I am talking about the forking audacity of things that happen in the workplace, and I am live on Facebook, LinkedIn, um, YouTube, and Instagram. I paused because last week Instagram did not go live, but here we are this week, live on Instagram as well. If you are with me tonight, come say hi. Hey, bestie. Lauren Howard is here. If you don't know Lauren, she is amazing and is in the process of, having launched an incredible company for mental health services, all by telehealth, all across the US, including an autism assessment that is just it's $485, I think, not covered by insurance, but way less than all of the other programs that are not covered by insurance. And she just started ADHD assessment stuff too, so check her out, LB Health. So I'm talking about the Forking Audacity. And L2, if you want to join me on this live, if you've got the energy for it, just let me know. I'll bring in. But I've been talking about the audacity in the last couple of weeks. And I just sort of was hit in the last couple of years with Lauren said, I didn't expect a full plug. Of course I'm going to give a full plug. I'm so proud of this program that you've built and this company that you've built that is like changing the face of mental health care. So you're amazing. But if you haven't joined me before, I have gotten big feelings in the last couple of years about the audacity of things. Lauren said she would come live with me, but hasn't showered in days. That's cool. I've been talking the last couple of weeks about people taking credit for your work, your manager having the audacity, and it occurred to me this week that there is audacity in the audacity. And that brings me into some sort of inception-y thought processes. But the worst thing about the audacity, and whether your version of audacity is a toxic workplace where everybody speaks poorly about each other, whether it is toxicity in the form of a manager who talks down to you or takes credit for your work or tells you to wait your turn and may as well finish that with young lady in the tone that they say it, whether that is companies that do fraudulent things or companies that just don't treat their employees well, or companies that expect you to be available 24/7, 365, or 366 on a leap year. There's a lot of audacity out there. And a thing that I find, and a thing that happens with a lot of my new clients, a lot of people who come to talk to me or come to work with me, is that the audacity shuts us down. The audacity makes it so that we are afraid to speak up. And instead of saying to ourselves or to other people, holy forking cow, the audacity, instead of doing that, we get quieter and we get smaller. And so I want to talk a little bit about how that process happens. And it doesn't actually usually start with us being quiet or self-conscious about what we're doing or how we're behaving. The audacity that shuts us down actually usually comes from when we are confident, when we are ready to pitch in, when we have pitched in and we've been complimented for it, when we have stood up and said, I know how to do this, I can lead this, I want this seat at the table, and we've gotten that, And so little by little, our confidence has grown. And then the audacity comes in when we are torn down from that. And it comes in the form of being confident enough that we let down some of our guard and then being sort of put in our place. I'll give you an example from earlier in my career. I had moved from one company to another, and I had moved from a very confrontational, always have your dukes up, like ready to defend yourself, ready to defend your decisions, ready to defend what's happening, even if you don't agree with it, kind of environment. And I'd moved into a new environment. The people were lovely, the work was lovely, it was exciting. I was working in a new industry, so a lot was really exciting. And for 2 or 3 months, everywhere I turned, people were appreciative of the work I was doing. People were nice. People were, very into what I had come in to do, and which is unusual for HR. So it was even better, right? Because my career before executive coaching was HR. And uh 2 3 months went by, and we had rolled out something new that had actually sort of come down from the parent company, and we had given feedback to make it equitable for our folks who had better benefits than the parent company did. And we got to a place where basically everybody was benefiting from this new policy. It was a time off policy. And I say basically everybody because the people who weren't benefiting, like nothing was changing for them. They would benefit later because later it was a more generous program. But somebody misunderstood the program and came into my office. And by this time, I had let my guard down because there was no audacity here. People were just kind to each other. And in comes this woman, and she proceeds to lean in and scream at me. Just absolutely scream at me. The audacity of this woman coming in and telling me that 3 months into my job or 2 months into my job, a policy that the parent company had rolled out that my voice was in because I had helped fight for better. Um, this woman came in and just sort of blamed me for ruining the company. I wasn't even in charge. I was the second in command HR person. So the idea that I even had control over this stuff was audacious in and of itself. But in she came screaming at me that I was screwing her over, that she was going to have less vacation than she had ever had before, that she had dedicated, I don't know, 15 or 20 or 25 years to this company. And how could we do this to her? And this wouldn't have happened if I had never come on board. And just like all red in the face, leaning in at me and screaming. Now, I handled this in a way that felt okay for me in the moment. I said, I'm not going to continue to have this conversation with you until and unless you speak to me in an even tone. You're screaming, and I don't respond to screaming. And in that moment, it felt good. I felt empowered, and I felt like I was able to pick up a tool I had in my last company, which was like always be on the defensive. But what the audacity did in that moment was she left my office. I asked her to relook at the policy and make sure she understood it, because there was nobody in the company who was being punished by the new policy. It was actually ultimately better for everybody, except for the people who already had the maximum amount of time off, which she did, and she wasn't losing it. She left my office and I burst into tears because I was not anticipating animosity. I was not anticipating yelling. It did end up being rare that I got yelled at that company. It didn't never happen, but it did end up being rare. But what it did to me, this was, now 15 or more years ago, I still remember it, right? And I still feel it. What it did to me in the moment, even though I stood up and I said, I won't continue to have this conversation with you, was it shrunk me. It made me feel small because some person who thought I was doing something intentionally to hurt them screamed at me. And it happens to us in a whole bunch of ways. It happens to us when somebody says, "Oh, I'd love your input on this." And then you give your input on something else and they say, "Nobody asked for your input on this." It happens when we say, "Hey, I'm excited for my performance review, and I wanted to have a conversation with you about what might happen in the next year from a promotion perspective, so that as I start to work on my goals, I can think about like what's next for me." And the response is sort of out of left field. I don't know why you think you're getting a promotion when you've had conversations before about potential promotion. It comes in the form of, "I expected more from you," when there wasn't guidance or support for the things that you have been doing. And the way that it impacts us is that it makes us feel smaller. I had a client fairly recently who, and I've had several clients who have had this type of feedback, because my clients tend to be ambitious, high achieving, people pleasing women, not exclusively, but mostly, who want to serve and want to continue to grow and want to be rewarded for that. Their priority is to serve. And so they don't fight super hard for promotion because there's a sense that if I do my job and if I continue to get praise, I will grow, and I will be rewarded for that. And in reality, and in this particular client or couple of clients, they were women in their 30s and early 40s who were told they didn't need to be this ambitious yet, to wait their turn. And when they looked at the jobs they were doing, actually doing, not interested in for the future, jobs they were actually doing, they were actually doing the next level of work. And I've had that experience myself earlier in my career where they're doing the next level of work and they say, "Hey, it's time for me to go from associate director to director, from director to VP, from VP to SVP, from whatever it is. I want to be the CHRO. I want to be the chief marketing officer," whatever it is. And they've been working towards it, and there have been indications that they are doing all of the right things and doing it all the right way. And then it comes to a head at some point, and somebody says condescendingly to them, "You've got plenty of time to grow in your career. Wait your turn. There are other people ahead of you." Or, "We're not promoting anybody right now because we can't promote that person over there. And if we promote you, it will look bad." And it chips away at you over time. It chips away at your confidence. It chips away at your confidence in that one area, but it also chips away at your confidence in expanded areas. So imagine, and you may not have to imagine because you may have had this experience already in your career, but imagine that you are executive or leader in your company. You're doing your job, you get praise most of the time, you take feedback pretty gracefully. You think you're on a path. You've gotten indications you're on a path. Last year at your performance review, you got an exceeds expectations, or you got an outstanding. There's nothing to change. You're doing amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And then the messages become mixed. And it's almost like the impression you get for yourself when you start getting feedback is, "I got too big for my britches. I misinterpreted that I was getting positive feedback. I misjudged asking for a seat at this table. I don't deserve the seat at this table." And we start anticipating the potential responses we're going to get, and we shrink ourselves. So instead of asking for the seat at the table or saying, "Hey, I belong in this project," we remember that last time we said something, we got shot down, maybe in front of other people, which is humiliating. And this time we don't want to raise our hands. This time we say, I'll help instead of I'll lead. And we make ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller. I also see this audacity in the job search process, especially when we've come out of a toxic work environment where we've been told we're lucky to have this job, or where we've been laid off and had to take a job at a lower salary. I've had clients who've come in who were $160,000 a year, got laid off, took a $120,000 job, got laid off, and now they're like at $75,000, $80,000 because the confidence gets shot down. And we think that we're being the audacious ones for expecting that what we have earned in the past still belongs to us. And I'm here to tell you that I disagree with that. I think the audacious part is that you do not deserve to be a person who gets knocked down by some jerk's feedback. So if you have been praised for the work that you do, if you have been successful in the work that you've done, if you have gotten raises and promotions, remember that. Track that. Have a folder for yourself. I said this last week also. Have a folder for yourself about positive feedback you've received. Whether you're receiving positive feedback from a coworker, someone who reports to you, someone you report to, someone from the board, somebody from another department, doesn't matter. You get good feedback, you keep track of that. Because when you hear, wait your turn, stay in your seat, it's not for you to join that project, it's time to take your hands out of that. All of those kinds of bits and pieces of feedback should be confusing, but not shutting you down. So the response that you get to learn to have, and this is something that I work with my clients on all the time, and that I work on for myself still, because it is hard to receive unexpected, negative facing feedback and come back at it without being defensive, without being antagonistic or feeling like you're antagonistic. And so here are a couple of things for you to do. You get unexpected feedback, and whether that is wait your turn or sit down, or I don't know why you think there's a promotion for you, or we don't have money in the budget, or I expected this to be done by now, or I found a mistake and I'm going to make a really big deal about it, even though it's not actually a big deal. Whatever it is that you're getting that's coming at you that is contrary to what you know as a human you are good at doing, you have done before, you've been praised for before. When you get that feedback and it throws you off, the first thing I want you to do is remember that you are not the audacious one. The audacity is coming from the other side. The audacity is not coming from inside the house, right? The audacity is coming from the other person. You then have the right to pause and to decide how you're going to respond. So in that moment, you are well within your rights to say, okay, and retreat, and to not get involved in a conversation. You also have a right to get into a conversation if you have a comfort level with doing that. But if you're not ready to respond, you get to go back. You get to go back, and whether that's through email, whether that's a conversation, whether it's in your next one-on-one, whether you go to a mentor, whether you work with your coach, whether you work with me as your coach, you have the opportunity to go back into that conversation and say, hey, this thing happened. This is what I heard you say. This is how it impacted me. This is how it doesn't jibe with anything else we've talked about. And before this lives in my brain rent free for the rest of my life, I want to talk about it. You said that I need to wait my turn. And we've talked in the past about me getting into more rooms, me getting seats at more tables. And so when I asked about this particular project and you said I needed to wait my turn, it was really confusing for me. You get to do that. You get to have that conversation. You get to then hear the feedback and decide, is this an environment that I want to stay in? Is there someone else who can champion me? Is there some other person or way that I need to have a conversation with or way to have the conversation? And you get to be in practice on it and retreat whenever you're ready to retreat. You also get to decide, that answer is not good enough for me. I'd like to have another conversation about this next week. I want to do some thinking on this and have a conversation next week. It is not a sign of weakness to come back and say, the thing you said, the way you treated me, the way you spoke to me did not sit well with me. If you don't feel safety, and that could be physical safety or psychological safety, in raising something, then you want to have another place to go, to either work with yourself on how to let go of or address the audacity that has come your way, or to, redirect yourself and do something else, which totally is easier said than done. There's a lot of work that goes into that too. But I think the biggest mistake that we make when the audacity comes at us is that we think it would be audacious of us to respond. And that is the thing that's not true. That's the lie that we're telling ourselves. If somebody, if in your friend group said, hey, I need you to come over and scrub my floors. And there was no reason that you needed to go scrub their floors. They either were someone who could scrub their floors themselves, or they were somebody who hired somebody to scrub floors for them. But they wanted you for no good reason, no discernible reason, to just come over and scrub their floors. You'd probably laugh and say, like, what do you mean you want me to come over and scrub your floor? What are you talking about? Like, are you forgetting who I am and that I'm your friend and that, like, scrubbing your floors isn't a thing that I do? But somehow when there's a power dynamic, there's an opportunity for whoever is in power to do what they do and say what they say, resulting in making you feel small. And you think that you can't have the audacity to come back to them and to handle it. Now, as I developed in my career, as my clients develop in their careers and in their confidence, it is easier to address the audacity in the moment and to repeat back to a person what they have said to you or how they have treated you. So when somebody says, yeah, you really have to wait your turn, it becomes easier to say, can you say more about waiting my turn? It becomes easier to say, not that age should matter at all, but I'm the same age as a number of the people in the position I'm talking about being promoted to. So I'm not sure what wait your turn means. It feels really demeaning and condescending, and I'm sure that wasn't your intention, right? Um, all of these kinds of conversations, though, take practice. They take having someone else to bounce this stuff off of, and they happen everywhere all the time. So if you are hearing some of this example conversation and you have something to relate it to, please know you are not alone. When we keep these secrets, when we keep quiet about the fact that something that has happened that has been demeaning or insulting or condescending, or feels like it threatens our jobs because somebody is being an audacious jerk, when we keep it quiet, it gets to live on forever. When we start talking about it, when we start sharing it, it starts to lose its power. So I want you to keep this in mind as you're going through your week, as you hear things around the office, as you hear things from your own boss. If you are in a relationship that feels like someone in power gets to have the audacity and you're supposed to just be quiet, I want you to think about that. I just want you to notice it. And send me a DM. Let me know if that's happened to you and how you've handled it, or if you need a little tidbit of advice on how to handle it. If it's a one-off, I'm happy to give you, a little bit of insight into how I might handle it. If it's a theme, if it's something that you need to work through, if it's happened at multiple jobs or with multiple managers or with a leader you've been reporting to for many years and you need to untangle this stuff and learn how to take a stand for yourself and learn how to build that confidence, learn how to boundary set, that's when you should talk to me because that is a big part of executive coaching is really learning how to take where you are now and figure out where you want to go from here and how you want things to be, and then how to put that into action and how to have the confidence to put all of that into action. I'm here for you. I look forward to talking to you again next Tuesday. Oh, actually, I won't be there next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I'm traveling, so I'll be back in 2 Tuesdays with the Forking Audacity again. And if you have a Lauren, you sent me a DM. Okay, I'll check your DM and I'll tell you how to respond. I'm only laughing, everybody, because Lauren is among my best friends and she has the Forking Audacity. And she also sends me 40 texts a week. So, a DM seems a little funny for us. But anyway, I will see you in 2 weeks. And thank you so much for being here. If you have any suggestions for topics, any situations that you want to share with me in the comments or the DMs, any topics that you want me to talk about that are forking audacious, let me know. I'm happy to take your ideas or your situations, not identify you, and bring those to the forefront so that we can talk about the forking audacity and not keep it all so quiet. Have a great night. See you next time.